the aliens, they didn't even realize that we separated the subconscious from the conscious mind. They couldn't even get to the person unless the person agreed to being, met, abducted, or whatever. And so when they heard the people shouting, it just didn't make sense, because what they heard stronger was their agreement, and the agreement was to help both worlds somehow. The aliens appear also through our beliefs. So at one point they might have been leprechauns. At one point, angels and devils. Now we see, instead of chariots in the sky, we see spaceships. Seth calls it a camouflage reality. So we have our own system of camouflage reality. If a craft comes from another planet, or maybe another dimension as well, I don't know. They have their own camouflage reality. So they're trying to maintain their camouflage reality and our camouflage reality, and that makes the shape seem to flicker. According to Seth, that's just the process, the mechanism of them trying to stay in our, our reality, our physical reality. Seth also said our thoughts appear in other realities as UFOs. That's just there's some kind of active interaction between all these dimensions and realities, and in one of them, or I don't know, universe, whatever, our thoughts can appear as UFOs. So I'll extrapolate that and say maybe some of the things we're seeing are thoughts of others appearing to us as UFOs. According to Seth, he said they're either from another dimension, another planet, another time period. It could be ourselves. It's all, not only one, but all of these. They could be us from the future, coming back. Everybody who's abducted did agree to it on this deeper level, because you do create your own reality concerning your beliefs, but it's not the loudest belief and it's not the most conscious belief. It's the most deeply held belief. So someone who believes, I want to be rich, or, I want to find true love, but they're always not. And they could scream, uh, I want to find a great relationship. I want to be rich. They could tell it to everybody and they could say it very loudly. But if they have a deeper belief of why they don't want to find it, in other words, I'm a bad person. I don't deserve happiness. Money's evil, so I really don't want it. Whatever is the deeper held belief, even if that they're not consciously aware, that's going to dictate what they attract. So that's what I think was going on here, where the people are all rightfully so, terrified. I mean, I hate it when my wife tries to put eye dropper in my eye, because like the eye feels dry, and I see that going close to me. I hate that feeling. So imagine how they feel. They're looking up at these lights, and these people are doing these things to them. If you have a belief that you don't recognize, you see that as reality, as rock bed reality. So once you start looking at things as beliefs, and then realize you could change your beliefs, you're not stuck. It's like changing furniture. Then you could actually change your beliefs, and you're not stuck with it. Well, that's reality. A lot of people that talk about these parallel universes don't talk much, if at all, about the communicating between the parallel realities, but what Seth says, probable realities. But there's this ongoing communication. So I could learn something from a probable me and then incorporate it into this one. And to me, I'm one of their invisible, non-physical, infinite probable realities. Each probable reality sees itself as it, I'm it. And I have an infinite number of probable realities around me. All of reality is first, physical, normal reality is first inside. And then we conjure it up outside. But it's real. A lot of people say physical reality is just an illusion. And linear time is just an illusion. Time is all simultaneous. Physical reality is just an illusion. But it's not just an illusion. It's one real part of the expansive reality. It is real. And in physical reality, there are objects, and you live and you die. There's physical death. But there's more to it than meets the eye.
Greetings and good day. This is The Channeled Truth. I'm your host, Thomas Leichardt, and I'm a channeler myself, and I love exploring the works of Seth and Jane Roberts, Abraham-Hicks, and Bashar. And with me today, we have a very special guest that is returning. He was with us for episode 2, and now he's returning to talk to us and to have a conversation about aliens and the Seth material. Right, so Seth did mention UFOs quite a bit, sprinkled throughout the material. And our guest is, the unique aspect about him is that he was there when Jane was channeling live, right? So he got to hear Seth coming through Jane. And, today we're in the age of a lot of public channels, but Jane was very private, right? She was an author, and the Seth material came out as books. And very few people actually saw her channel live. So without further ado, let's bring Barrie Gellis onto the stage. Barrie, thank you so much for coming on the show again.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I just want to mention that you have 2 books out on the Seth material, which is Outside is a Secret Key, is a book of poetry. And then there is the Seth material Q&A, which you are actually in the process of revising into a second edition. And so we are going to pull one of your essays from Seth Q&A, and this is an essay about extraterrestrials, about aliens, about Seth 2 and consciousness, and probing those deep questions of, what is the alien phenomena, right? Is it consciousness? Is it nuts and bolts craft? Maybe it's both. Right, so I also understand that you had a show in Queens, New York, in 1989 through some 1995 about aliens, right? So that's a new piece of information I didn't know about you. So that's pretty exciting. And so let's go ahead and dive into our first question, right? So reading your essay, you really talk about the polarity of beliefs that people have, good versus evil, Axis versus allies. You also use the term cowboys versus Indians, right? The whole, these different themes that show up either in Hollywood or in our collective consciousness and our religions, right? And how does that color the whole ET phenomena, alien phenomena, as people perceive it?
Yeah, well, it's the same idea of good versus evil, and as I said, it used to be angels versus devils. And and in the wars, it was allies, the Axis in the movies, and in real life at one point. Excuse the terminology, but it was cowboys versus Indians. The Indians were the bad guys, the cowboys were the good guys. So in my mind, I always think of it as the cowboys versus Indians mentality, the good guys versus the bad guys. But the thing to remember is, I believe back then, because you create your own reality, which we'll get to in more detail. But back then, when they believed in angels and devils, it makes total sense to me that they actually materialized physical angels and devils, that they saw them the way we see an ice cream truck today, that they saw angels and they saw devils because they believed them, so they conjured them up and they were there. So it's that same mentality of the angels versus the devils, which was real to them, not like us. It's kind of an idea, a metaphysical idea, to most people. It's a concept, it's an analogy, an allegory. So I think that they believed in angels and devils. So, and they translated the unknown experience into the filter of their beliefs, which dictate what you see. And so today, we've we the good versus evil again is now it's the good aliens that are trying to protect us from the bad aliens. That there's bad aliens that are trying to take over Earth, take over humans, and there's the good aliens that are protecting us. It's another war. It's like it's a universe war now instead of like World War III or World War IV or one or two. Now it's this expansive universal war with the exact mentality of good versus evil. There's a victim, then there's the savior. That's what's going on now.
Yes, and I've noticed that too. And when I research, more of like the collective consciousness about extraterrestrials, right? There's this there's a lot of this like, oh, there's a galactic war going on, and oh, these ones are trying to save Earth, and these ones are trying to conquer Earth, and there's this all this drama, melodrama, right? I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah, this is like a great script for a Hollywood movie, right? But
which
that's
it
not my
is. They have a
sense.
lot of them.
It's
And
not.
all, there was when with Jimmy Carter was around, the aliens were looked at more friendly. So we had movies like Close Encounters. We had less frightening movies, about aliens. When the 50s Cold War, the aliens were like bad guys again trying to conquer the world. And now with the way the world is today with the, Trump, etc., and before him, they got into this bad guy, good guy thing all over again. And what they leave out, in my opinion, what is being left out is they do think that aliens have been around, let's say, for millions of years, put X amount of years, and they have this great technology or whatever they think they have, but they seem to leave out that shouldn't there also be, and in my opinion there is, a spiritual evolution, that their mentality would not stay frozen in our human cowboy versus Indian, good versus evil mentality. But wouldn't they have evolved that if they once had that a million years ago, and not just so we're projecting onto them our own beliefs. We're seeing ourselves in them. Isn't that what they said with the God? Something in the Bible about seeing yourself in who knows what. God is made in your image or something. These are aliens. We're making these aliens in our image mentally, our mental image of them. So yeah, this good versus evil is a really powerful belief that usually just goes by accepted, not even thought about. But of course, it's the evil versus good. And but me and you, and I'm sure other people, believe differently anyway.
Yeah, that's my sense is, when I have experiences that touches into these dimensions of consciousness and entities, it's like they're way beyond these polarities. They're very much integrated beings. And oftentimes what I'm seeing is that when people are in fear, they're just projecting their own fear onto these experiences, right? And it's, Seth talked about this a lot, is how our beliefs create our reality. And when people have only a limited symbolic language, they interpret the phenomena through that symbolic language. So they put it in the clothes of, gods and angels and devils and demons, right? Or now in our modern age, it's like, it's galactic wars and
Yeah,
galactic federations,
and it's also,
fighting.
what was that? When you're speaking of beliefs create reality, um, it's what's happening when they say it's a computer simulation today, because in you create your own reality. I don't know if you're going to ask me later on, but I think now I want to say it. According to Seth, when you create your own reality, what that means in part is you conjure up each instant. You're conjuring up all the objects around you so quick that our senses don't notice it. And we're also in mass conjuring up the whole universe so that there's a big bang happening each instant, if you will. So when you create your own reality, when it comes to objects, we are, each instant, our senses can't see it, but it's really, we flicker. There's a blinking or a flickering going on. Now, some people, when they have trance states or they take LSD or some drug, they sometimes or just naturally, can see this flickering. It's a natural flickering that occurs when you create in reality creation. So when people report, oh, they see this thing and it was like flickering, today's beliefs must interpret, if you have this belief, it as a computer. Because on a computer screen, if you look carefully, or it used to, I don't even know if it happens anymore, but things flicker. It's not a steady image. It's a flickering. You mentioned pickles, pixels, something. So when they saw, whoever noticed this flickering going on, they said, "Oh, that's a computer screen. We must be in a computer simulation." Because that's the only thing that could explain it. So in reality creation, in that point, is they're taking this natural flickering and translating or seeing it through the filter of their modern technology beliefs, which says it must be a computer. So now we're in a large computer. Like you and I are these aliens from a million years, and we're watching Earth, reality, and whatever we're doing with it. It's a computer simulation. Not if that means that we're not supposed to be real. Well, are we just in somebody's screen like a game? But that the whole concept I'm rejecting again, just because of my beliefs, as just they're picking up the natural flickering. So it's really a it's like a consciousness simulation as opposed to a computer simulation. They're seeing consciousness at work, consciousness creating the reality of what they're seeing, which is the objects that they see. You know, so and then of course you attract what you believe. That's the other half of reality creation. When you have certain beliefs, you attract that event, and then you work through it one way or another with your free will. But it's always using your beliefs. So they're attracting whatever they expect in this good guy, bad guy mentality to happen. There was a book I mentioned in the essay by Lisa Royal, her name was, and to me it was a great book. It's a channeled book from supposedly from an alien or a couple of alien people, things, whatever they are. But it's one of the rare books that did not conflict with any of Seth's ideas in it. So that was a plus to me because I'm always looking for how does it differ from what Seth said, and it didn't. But what said in that book was that according to the aliens, they didn't even realize that we separated the subconscious from the conscious mind, and that they couldn't even get to the person unless the person agreed to being, met, abducted, or whatever. And so when they heard the people shouting, it just didn't make sense because what they heard stronger was their agreement, and the agreement was to help both worlds somehow. They wanted to help our world with whatever technology, whatever they have, and we were helping them. Oh, because they, according to this, um, they had genetically removed certain responses. Actually, Seth said this about some civilization, on Earth, that they so were afraid of their aggression that they removed it. These people, they genetically had it away, but they realized they couldn't get it back. It went too far. It wasn't good. So when they abduct people with the agreement, they scare them or show them images, horrible images, or whatever it is, to get their brain secretions so they could use them and try to put it back into their civilization, into their creaturehood, whatever it is. Now, something like that was the idea. So, but the point was that everybody who's abducted did agree to it on this deeper level because you do create your own reality concerning your beliefs, but it's not the loudest belief and it's not the most conscious belief. It's the most deeply held belief. So, someone who believes, uh, I want to be rich or, I want to find true love, but they're always not. And they could scream, uh, I want to find a great relationship. I want to be rich. They could tell it to everybody and they could say it very loudly. But if they have a deeper belief of why they don't want to find it, in other words, I'm a bad person. I don't deserve happiness. Money's evil, so I really don't want it. Whatever is the deeper held belief, even if that they're not consciously aware, that's going to dictate what they attract. So that's what I think was going on here, where the people are all rightfully so, terrified. I mean, I hate it when my wife tries to put eye dropper in my eye because like the eye feels dry, and I see that going close to me. I hate that feeling. So imagine how they feel. They're looking up at these lights, and these people are doing these things to them. And on the UFO show, what you're talking about, we had someone named Betty Andreasen, um, and she had another name at the time, but she married somebody. She told us that they actually removed her eyeball and did whatever they did. So, I mean, they do things that are to us, to me, I would say, speaking for the human race, I would say it's pretty horrible what things that they seem to do with, what they do, some of it. But according to this book, which did fit in with the Seth material, it was agreed to, and they knew what was going to happen, and they agreed to it to help both our civilizations. So that's that end of reality creation as well. And then the aliens appear also through our beliefs. So at one point they might have been leprechauns. At one point, angels and devils. Now we see, instead of chariots in the sky, we see spaceships, because that was our latest technology. We're going to the moon and exploring space. And now the latest technology is the computers, and everything computers do. So now we see it as a computer, get those words mixed up, computer simulation. And that's how I think of beliefs create reality do fit in to this whole thing, which is just overlooked almost completely when it comes to all theories that I hear about about aliens and stuff. Just the idea of you create your own reality, they don't even mention it. It's like non-existent.
Yeah, so you brought up some great points. I totally agree that whatever encounters we do have is by agreement, and those agreements sometimes happen at higher levels, other levels of consciousness, and a physical being that's compartmentalized and separated out in his consciousness or their consciousness then is in fear experiencing these things that were agreed at other levels of consciousness, right? But speaking of the Seth material, he brings up the idea of craft and UFO, and in your experience of studying the material and being around Jane when she channeled, what are some of the origins of these craft, or these, are they extra dimensional, extraterrestrial? Is it a little bit of both, right? Can you shed
Yeah,
some light on
yeah,
what Seth said about
yeah.
that?
Yeah. According to Seth, he said they're either from um, another dimension, another planet, another time period. It could be ourselves. And it's all, not only one, but all of these. They could be us from the future. Coming back. I might have missed one. I think there were four, five. I think I mentioned four. And the yeah. So that's what Seth said, that they're from all these different, and that craft. He said the crafts are real. He talks about pressure on the craft. He said it's so difficult. We have Seth calls it a camouflage reality. So we have our own system of camouflage reality. If a craft comes from another planet, or maybe another dimension as well, I don't know. They have their own camouflage reality. So they're trying to maintain their camouflage reality and our camouflage reality, and that makes the shape seem to flicker, and not flicker, but change shape, or be transparent. Like you can see it through. It doesn't seem like it's fully solid, and then it does. And instead of being some kind of computer simulation, according to Seth, that's just the process, the mechanism of them trying to stay in our our reality, our physical reality. Seth also said our thoughts appear in other realities as UFOs. That's just there's some kind of active interaction between all these dimensions and realities, and in one of them, or I don't know, universe, whatever, our thoughts can appear as UFOs. So I'll extrapolate that and say maybe some of the things we're seeing are thoughts of others appearing to us as UFOs. Um, So yeah, Seth said that's where they come from. I mean, they're real in that way. And he spoke about some being part of certain uh, ancient buildings or something. There are some parts that have remained here, and they became part of that structure. So um, that's all I got for now on that.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with that idea is that, there's not just one civilization, not only that, but different levels of consciousness that are visiting us, right? And so that's my sense is some of it is pure extra dimensional energy as it projects into our dimension. We crystallize it out of our own metaphors and we see what we see. Sometimes you have the experiences where people see two different things. They're seeing a phenomenon. It's like, yes, I see something in the sky, but they describe it and they see two different things, right? Because it's extra dimensional energy and it's taking on the clothing of that reality. And each one perceives it based on their symbolic language, the way they would be interpreting a dream, right? A dream reality. We clothe those, we create a symbolic impression of events happening at much deeper levels.
Yeah, but
So
it's not. I'm sorry. Do you want me to? Can I interrupt, or you
no,
want to
go for
continue?
it.
Oh, it's not only because it's from another dimension, but one of the whole big things about reality creation, the theory, do you agree with it or not, anybody, is that we create, you can only see the objects that you create. So if there are five people in a room, they each create a television set that they could see, and they superimpose it on each other. So it looks like one TV set, but they telepathically agree. We're always supposedly all in continual telepathic communication and agreement. So we all agree what the TV set should look like and where it should be. So we all come in and physically, which is real, physical reality is a real reality, although there's more to it. We see one TV set, but it's really five TV sets superimposed. Now there's some, and that's with everything. So we see there are differences that are like unimportant really, but this becomes apparent in police reports when somebody robs a store or a bank or who knows what, and they interview the witnesses. This is where you can see differences. And like someone would say, "Oh, he was wearing a short sleeve shirt," and someone would say, "Oh, he was wearing a long sleeve shirt. He had a mustache. No, he was clean shaven." This is because they conjured up their bad guy, their perpetrator. But these little differences don't really matter if there's some differences there. So the differences that you're mentioning with seeing a spaceship or a UFO also comes up just in everyday life, and this explains a lot of arguments people have about what happened. Like you never said that, or wait, we went there, we didn't go there, and according to well, this is actually according to the probable reality things, and no, it's reality creation because you conjure it up. You change the experience. So I might sincerely remember, you said that to wear the red shirt, and my wife would say, no, I said the blue shirt, but you're not remembering it right. When really both are true. It's just that I have now changed it to that, no, you said the red shirt and not to the blue shirt. There also can be, though, faulty memories as well, which I think confuses things. But everything's not as, I was going to say black and white as it seems, but I'd say everything is not as technicolor as it seems.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's very much in alignment with Bashar too. Is when there's five people in a room, there's actually five different rooms,
Hmm.
and you're creating co-creating a shared reality through agreement at other levels, right? But everyone's experiencing that room, and it's they're in their own individual room, and they're recreating all five individuals as well, right? So you start
Yeah,
getting into this multiverse idea, which gets really
I
wild.
just, I want to interrupt. I'm sorry. I might interrupt. Actually, I am interrupting. And I'm speaking fast because I don't want to forget what I want to say. But it's not, they're creating the bodies they see. I don't believe they're creating the, the personalities, the person, whatever you want to call it, the personality, but they do create, everything's via telepathic agreement. My body is supposed to look like this, and I agree. And that's where anorexics come in. They're not following the mass agreed upon symbols or whatever. So they really see they really see a full looking good body where everybody else sees this concentration camp emaciated body. But they're creating a body for themselves that they physically see as being too heavy. So I got to eat a bite of an apple a day because I'm too overweight. And because there is a mass shared reality as, that we all agree to, and that's how we function. That's how we learn and grow, spiritually evolve by agreeing on the mass shared reality, co-creating it, and then using our free will to change our minds and to learn, and to move on. Uh, so the anorexic sees the real skinny body. I mean, sees the full body that's a little overweight as totally real, but nobody else does because that's a personal, like if you want to say a dream symbol that she's trying to superimpose on the mass agreed upon symbols. And that's where problems come in. I think that's what happens with people who are schizophrenic and things like that. They can't separate their personal. I don't know what other word to use. Symbol. I don't know if it's the right word, but they can't separate their personal symbol from the mass agreed upon symbol. So they think some things are happening in this shared reality that's just not happening. And so going back to the TV set, yeah, the people. I didn't know. I don't even think you meant this, but we create, in my opinion, We are creating their bodies, but we're not creating them. Because I've had people online tell me, no, I'm creating you. Everyone you meet, you're creating as if I'm creating their consciousness. I'm not even interacting with anybody. And I would say, uh, and I would say the Seth material says, but I would say, that's incorrect. We're attracting the personality because of our beliefs and our reasons, and we're creating the body that we see, and we're all creating the objects around us. But I'm not creating yourself, your soul, you're there, and we've agreed, well, consciously we've agreed, but subconsciously before, we agreed to the whole thing. So, but I'm not creating you. I am creating your body. If we were in person, let's say.
Yeah, no, that's a good part to tease out because people start getting into like, well, it's this or that, but it's actually this and that, right? It's like I'm creating my version of you as I interpret you, but you're your own person, and but I'm seeing my version of you. Your wife sees her version of you, but you're still your own version, right? So
Yeah,
it's this and that.
and also with beliefs about you do have beliefs about a person. So if you believe a person is mean and that person does something nice, you find a way to look at it so you could still hold the belief that the person's mean. It was an aberration. They were just kidding. They were trying to manipulate to get something else. So it's hard for people sometimes to recognize their beliefs about people, um, that makes them judge the person, their character, or different things. Like if you think I'll stick it with that. You think somebody's a mean person, and you'll do either understandable things or sometimes mental contortions just to maintain your belief that they are a mean person, even though they did something that's not mean. We do that with prejudice. If you don't like a certain race or certain group, if somebody on that group does something good, well, he's the exception that proves the rule. They didn't mean it, so on and forth. So the beliefs do work on many levels, or a few levels anyway. What we physically see, what we telepathically agree upon in mass, and how we view and judge a person and their character. People do project that, or stick to their beliefs, not recognize. If you have a belief that you don't recognize, you see that as reality, as rock bed reality. So once you start looking at things as beliefs, and then realize you could change your beliefs, you're not stuck. It's like changing furniture. Then you could actually change your beliefs, and you're not stuck with it. Well, that's reality.
And when you look at just how prejudiced we are with one another, just based on, somebody looks a little bit different, oh, they're the other, or they're, they don't belong, or whatever, right? Or it's us versus them, right? All this tribal mentality. And then you start going galactic and start coming back to the theme of aliens, right? How much subconscious and unconscious fear and prejudice we have over the other that's really an alien, right? In the true sense of the term, right? So that comes into play is how people have these experiences. They're filtering it through all those negative prejudices and tribalism, and it gets intense with all the negativity that it's filtered through.
And that all goes into the cowboy versus Indian mentality, the good versus evil. You know, and then when it comes to people, if somebody does something and it hurts your feelings, you could not you. I don't mean you personally, but you could believe they did it on purpose. They not that, oh, I'm interpreting it wrong, or it hurt my feelings because of this experience, but it wasn't meant to be that way. Sometimes people just whatever conclusion. Well, if I said that, I would have been mean, so you must be mean because you said it. That's projection, and that all is a part of. That's really not a Seth part of reality creation. That's just a psychological part of reality creation, and a lot of Seth is psychological. A lot of his ideas when it
Absolutely.
comes to these things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
taking things personally, right? Instead of recognizing they're just coming from a place of guardedness and pain, and they're not meaning something to you specifically. They're just acting out their own drama and trauma and whatever else,
Yeah.
right?
Or they
Doesn't
might not even meant it that way. You
right.
could be making a lighthearted comment, but because that person's background, that's what their mother would say to them before they beat them or something.
Right.
And so they're scared of it. They think you're being mean. I'm going to have a sip of water here.
And that becomes the trigger, right? Like what you're saying is they hear a certain thing and, all of a sudden their survival mechanism kicks in, right? And
Hmm.
I think that's a lot what's happening with these encounters and what we call abductions, right? Our
Completely.
survival fear comes in, and everything is just through that filter of, I'm in danger, my life is in danger, the planet's in danger, right? We're going
But
to get taken over. All these just negative beliefs come to the surface.
it's not only with abductions, though. It's with the whole phenomenon. It's with the whole thing of UFOs. You don't have to be abducted to believe in this evil aliens trying to take over the planet. Of course, if they wanted to, they could do it in 5 seconds, and there wouldn't be this ongoing war for millions of years, with thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions. The good guys protecting us, the bad guys. It's just this ever extended. There was a Star Trek like this. I don't know if you remember, about the guy Leo Gorshin, I think his name was. There was the civilization divided in half, a black side and a white side, and to the people, to the humans on the craft, on Starship craft, they looked the same. But these people were chasing each other through thousands of years because one guy had escaped and one guy was trying to get him. And the ones that had the black, let's say the left side was black, those were the evil bad guys, and the ones with the right side was black, they were the good guys. And this guy had escaped. And it was this evil person escaped, I don't know, 5,000 years ago. And they were chasing each other throughout time with the belief, that the guy with you know, that one was evil and one was good, and nobody else could tell the difference between them. And they're connected to something you said, which will probably make sense if somebody listens to this.
Yeah, so here's an interesting one, right? In terms of encountering aliens, right? Are they perhaps other versions of ourselves?
They could. When you say other versions, I believe some of them are. Well, if you say other versions, I would say like maybe from our future. I don't know how many years in the future, but we could be coming back. I think some of we are coming back from our future, and in that way. Now we might be. I don't know. I'll change that to. I think we are, since we're all connected. I think all the aliens are. I don't know if to say there are other versions of ourselves, but we're connected to them. We're all apart. We're all connected. Even the ones that they say look like lizards, or whatever it is. I think we're all part of the same consciousness overall. And so, but other versions of ourselves, I guess I'd have to know more what you mean by other versions.
I experience it as like, we have the soul, which is kind of more personal, but then we have the oversoul, which is, Seth, I think, would say entity that has, the multiple lives, right?
I
So
get
just
it. I know what you mean. Yeah.
yeah,
I
extrapolating from
mean,
there, it's like other aspects of us, might be living on an extraterrestrial planet, right? Having that experience, but yet here I am,
well,
this version of me that's having an
could
Earth
be.
experience. And I
Yeah.
feel like now it's like we're starting to have these bleed through communications between not just other lives on the planet, but extraterrestrial lives, extra dimensional lives bleeding in and out of our time space.
Yeah. I don't, as far as I understand what you're saying, I don't think that that's what's happening. Because there's also be other versions of us and having a great time, a better time than here. But in any case, oh, and I also don't think it's, which I thought you were going to say at first, like we're seeing a physical version of our entity or a physical version of our higher self or something. I don't think that's what's happening either. And what you're touching upon is also the idea of probable realities. That in different probable realities, we're doing this show like now. In another probable reality, of course, we never met, or you just got a phone call that you won $1 million in the lotto. So there's infinite number of probable realities, according to this, and we learn from them, and we're always interacting with them. So we are communicating our. Like I could have a dream meeting myself when I was 10, and in the dream, I had just gone in real life. In the current life, I went to a museum and I found out about violins. So I tell my dream self, I mean, my 10-year-old self in the dream state, how great violins are. They're really great. I wake up in 2024, the other one wakes up in whatever year and just has this desire. He really wants a violin. He tells his mom, "Can you get me a violin for my birthday?" The mother gets the violin. I'm now walking with my friend to get a slice of pizza, and I turn and say, I just remembered my mother bought me a violin when I was 10. And that's because it just happened. And it happened because I communicated in the dream state. We communicated. So I think there's that kind of communication going on between selves, and also probable reality communications. A lot of people that talk about these parallel universes don't talk much, if at all, about the communicating between the parallel realities. But what Seth says, probable realities. But there's this ongoing communication. So I could learn something from a probable me and then incorporate it into this one. And to me, I'm one of their invisible, non-physical, infinite probable realities. Each probable reality sees itself as it, I'm it. And I have an infinite number of probable realities around me. And I'm one of them. To them, I'm one of those infinite ones going around, but I'm stuck with me here. So so there's that type of communication also between selves, probable selves, and going on. I don't think, in the course, only 99.9 of what I say is correct, not 100%. And that's a joke, universe. I just personally, I don't think that we're communicating with another self that's in another dimension that's having a bad experience, and that experience now we're picking up as a bleed through thing, and that's why we're upset. I mean, it's possible, and maybe now it's true because we just created it by talking about it. But those are the ways I think other people, besides being all connected, you know, if you want those people who believe in God and the Bible, if you believe God created everything and everyone, you'd have to believe He created all the aliens as well. So we're all, created by God, if they want to use that term. So I give the floor back to you, sir.
Sure. Yeah, so one last question before we wrap it up, and we can always come back to this at a later time as well. But do you feel aliens, it doesn't have to be a this or that, but do aliens come from within, from our inner reality, or from the outer reality? Is it outside or inside?
Well, that's a tricky question because all of reality is first, physical, normal reality is first inside. And then we conjure it up outside. But it's real. A lot of people say physical reality is just an illusion. And linear time is just an illusion. Time is all simultaneous. Physical reality is just an illusion. But it's not just an illusion. It's one real part of the expansive reality. It is real. And in physical reality, there are objects, and you live and you die. There's physical death. But there's more to it than meets the eye. So, like, you have a table, and you put your glass down on the table. The table's real, the glass is real, it holds the water, you drink the water. At the same time, it's not there. At the same time, it's conjured up each instant, but appears to be always physically there. Physical reality is a reality of appearances. What appears to be is the nature of physical reality. That's what it is. So all the physical reality is conjured up each instant, but it's real at the same time, just not what it appears to be to the five senses. And the same thing with linear time. Most people I don't know, X amount of people always say time is, linear time is an illusion. On one level, it is an illusion, but that's a bad word. It means it's unreal. But let's say illusion. But we created, according to Seth, physical reality because we needed it to learn in. We already had non-physical reality, F2, non-physical reality. We created F1, framework one. We created physical reality because we needed the physical experience. Part of that physical experience that we needed was linear time. In non-physical reality, let's say the dream state, if you want, you could be in World War One, and the next instant you could be someplace else, and everything. There's no linear time unless you want to put it in. In physical reality, we created linear time for a specific purpose, and that purpose has to do with Seth's concept of violations and natural guilt. That concept I've never seen elsewhere except one other person from the 1800s. But violations and natural guilt is the concept that there's a certain uh, violations. that you could do. Now, these violations really, they're not really violating another person. They're violating your own nature of love, compassion, and goodness, according to Seth, and I agree. That's human nature, love, compassion, and goodness. When you violate that nature, that's you harm. That's how you can harm others because you're violating that nature. And when you're harming somebody else, it's the violation, but it's the violation of your nature. When you're harming somebody else, according to the Seth material, something kicks in that he calls natural guilt. This natural guilt is an inner tugging, like an instinct, that kicks in before you repeat a harmful act. And it's telling you, you're telling yourself, don't do it, not to do it. So you're being told not to repeat the harmful act, and you're learning, not to harm others. But in order to do that, you must have linear time. You have to have linear time to have the pause of reflection. Seth called it something like that, and we all have it, the pause of reflection or something in those terms. So right before you're hitting the person over the head with a bat the second time, or you're going to say something to somebody after 2 weeks, the second time you're going to hurt them on purpose, something kicks in, what Seth calls natural guilt, and it says, don't repeat the harmful act, don't do it. And we need linear time for that. We created physical reality in order to have and use linear time. So when people say it's meaningless or doesn't exist, I think they're just missing the. I don't think they're missing. I don't. Yeah, they're missing the whole point, but they don't think they're just thinking about at all what the whole point was. And that's also the same thing with suffering and everything else. Physical reality, suffering is real. So is joy and love. Um, pain is real. Death is real. And this is part of why we created physical reality. We needed the vulnerability of matter in order to learn to act in harmony with our love, compassion, and goodness. Otherwise, you won't learn it. Like, there'd be no reason for it because in the greater reality, nobody's being killed, nobody's being harmed, and uh, so we needed that stuff. So linear time is real. It's just not. It's both. You mentioned it's both. The table is both solid and not solid. Solid. In classic science, it's solid. It's there. In quantum science, I believe it's not there at all. It's a bunch of swirling energy and there's no table at all. So you could say that about everything, about this table, about yourself, about the whole universe, about the whole physical universe. It's not there, but it is there and we're using it. And so, getting back to your question though about this alien thing inside or outside, it's both. Like everything else is both. It's it's first has to be inside first because that's the mechanical process of physical reality creation. Is that it's inside first and then we put it outside. So anything we see, a UFO, what it looks like, everything, um, is first inside then outside. What they look like is based on telepathic agreement with the alien, and also based on our beliefs and if they conflict or not. Um, and if, those who see again devils, they actually see the devils. There was one. Oh yeah, when you see UFOs, not you. When we see UFOs, or in the sky, videos of them, they sometimes to be moving like this all around, like not even in a pattern, and that always reminded me of moving a flashlight. When you're in your room, like as a kid in the dark, you move the flashlight around. It looks just like that. But when I was reading again about the UFOs and stuff, if they're having trouble staying in our physical reality because they're trying to maintain their camouflage reality in our camouflage reality, that would cause them to jump around. They wouldn't be just in one place. They'd first be here and they would be moving haphazardly, trying to stay in one place. So to me, that's an explanation about why they're moving haphazardly. I think the patterns is a different explanation. I think they're doing that to prove a point, to communicate something. If they're going in a circle, they're in a line, and then they go in a triangle. But when they're haphazardly jumping all over the place, that I believe is them trying to maintain their camouflage reality in our reality. So I'm not sure if that's answering your question. I think a little bit and then a little bit more, but That's that. Uh, okay, that's what I have on that.
Great. Yeah, I would tend to agree that physical reality is a playing field for us to work things out, right? To have experiences, right? And it's both, right? It's an illusion, but the experience of it is real, right?
Yeah.
So that was a
Oh, I was
good.
just going to say, go ahead. Again, I do this with people. I do this. I interrupt when I get excited. So I was just going to say, and the whole purpose of it, according to the Seth material, is we're here to learn two things. The first one is what is commonly known as the secret. You create your own reality, law of attraction, but to expand on it, you create your own reality via your beliefs, expectations, emotions, thoughts, or whatever. And, that you create your own reality. The second half that I put together from the Seth material, but that's not spoken about, at least that I know of, is in that reality creation. While you're doing that, you have to you learn to include helping and not harming others. And when those two lessons are learned, that you create your own reality via your beliefs and stuff, and in the process you to help and not harm others, that's when you're ready to leave the human race behind. That's when you're ready to end the reincarnation cycle, and that's when you're ready to move on to new dimensions or whatever that we can't even maybe imagine now. But according to Seth, and I agree, we never lose this personality. Even though you move on and you're no longer human in a sense, you left the reincarnational cycle. You still have all your memories, you still have your personality. It's more like it's available, let's say in the mind of this expansion version of yourself. So you could go conjure up if you want, sitting on a porch and feeling a spring breeze. If you like drinking a glass of wine, you could experience that. You don't lose your personality. It's not swallowed up. A lot of people think you get swallowed up in some nirvana, or you get swallowed up and you get lost and you disappear and you become something else. So I'm just saying here, you don't get lost. You don't get swallowed up. You do move on, but you're still there. It's not like you know, it's not like a shell, an eggshell that you throw out or something. You're still there, although you evolve further into what you wanted to be and do in the first place. The soul to learn, you know, you create your own reality and do so to help and not harm others, because in the next reality, everything is more intense, is instantaneous. There's no linear time. You think it is everything that happens. So I guess they're trying to have us not create in this other reality all these horrible, fearful, scary, things that I guess would be disruptive. I don't know. So there's this agreement, soul agreement, to learn these things first. And like you said, physical reality here, earth reality, is not only where we learn it, why we created it, and physical reality, but it's the toughest one to learn from. But it's the best one to learn from. So there is a purpose to it. So it's like the secret, but the full secret. You create your own reality, and in the process help and not harm others. But it's not just for that reason. And also, when you harm others, you're harming part of yourself, because we're all connected. You're harming part of all that is, because we're all connected and to all that is. But it's not only just learning that, it's then you can then leave the reincarnation cycle behind and move on. So it has a super duper importance, physical reality, and why we created it. So it's not simply, well, it's a camouflage reality, or you want to help others, etc. It all has a greater end, which is to evolve, spiritually evolve, which no one seems, not no one, but most people I hear don't seem to include the spiritual evolution when it comes to aliens. They say they've been around for millions of years or thousands of years, and they're still fighting over Earth, like they did. And it's ongoing. Oh, that's what the Star Trek one. That was an ongoing battle between the people split with the white and the black side. That was just an ongoing battle of good versus evil, for like they were chasing each other through time for like 5,000 years. And that's what they're saying about the aliens, that they're just fighting the good aliens that are protecting us, the victims. And, it's been going on forever, which is that cowboy and Indian mentality, which was real, as I said, by the way, excuse the word Indian, there were real cowboys and real Indians. And, the white people were really the bad guys, but it was real. They didn't imagine Indians, although they shouldn't have been Indians because Columbus thought he was in India. But they were real, and there were real battles going on. So it was a real event that is then projected onto. It's part of an ongoing projection of good versus evil, but projected onto the UFOs. And today, it's now a computer simulation, and nothing's real. And nothing's real. There's always a kernel of truth in things. Nothing's real if you want to say, yeah, it's a conjured up camouflage reality that we keep, conjuring up, but yet it is real at the same time. The table is not real, but it is real. And it's that doctrine of both. Both are true. That seems to get lost in the mix. That's the mix.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It comes back to this and that rather than this or that. So Barry, thank you so much for coming today. Looks like we're going a little bit over here. If you're interested, the viewers out there, in learning more, there's a whole chapter on Barry's discussion of the Seth material and extraterrestrials, aliens, in the book, which is Seth Material Q&A. He's going to be coming out with a second edition of that, so look for that as well. But to all of you out there joining in, this is an adventure in consciousness, so thank you so much for being here. We'll have Barry on again and many other guests. So may this inspire you to ask those deeper questions about reality, and may it inspire you to understand more of who we are, who you are, what reality is. And with that, we will sign off and wish you a beautiful and a fond good day.